Welcome back to another episode of Me and My Gorgeous Husband. I'm Adam Marr, and today MaSean and I are talking about how to survive the holidays by just not seeing your family. We're also going to talk with sexual health educator Dr. Karen Rayne. And finally, we're going to do an impromptu relationship check-in, which I for sure told MaSean about, and he forgot. Mariah, bring that music up, girl. Me and My Gorgeous Husband was recorded in front of a live studio Mariah Gossett. She's our producer, and she's here today.
Yes. Mariah Gossett Jr. I don't know why I call her that. Must have liked her work in Raisin in the Sun.
Oh, my goodness. I had to read that when I was a freshman in high school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was perfected by Sean P. Diddy Combs when they remade it. Just kidding.
MaSean, we have an anniversary coming up.
'Tis true.
Number 6.
Yeah, it's shocking because on the ride over here it was so quiet. I thought we were driving to sign divorce papers.
Well, if people can't tell, you've been sick, so I was trying to save your instrument.
No, you know.
Yeah. So we're going to be married 6 years this month.
Uh-huh.
What craziness is that? And together for 11 years in, March?
Only 11?
No. If I only had one day left on this planet, I'd want to spend it with you.
Aw.
Because every second with you is like an eternity.
I hate you. You're the worst.
Facts. MaSean, we had to get married in a different state when we got married.
Yeah, we did. I mean, for it to be legal, I guess we could have done it in Texas. But...
We're not doing that nonsense like commitment ceremony. I was like, I want the papers.
Has to be performed by a witch.
Yeah. And your uncles
Are the best in the world.
Yeah, tell people what they did. That's a leading question.
They became, yeah, for sure. They became our Mrs. Havisham. They bankrolled the entire thing against my will, kind of. But I'm super thankful for it.
Oh my God.
They did. I was like, no, justice of the peace is fine. We're just going to be there, so I want to tell you. That way we can visit and hang out. And they were like, absolutely not.
And then cut to us at the private dining room of the Gramercy Park Tavern.
Yeah.
Having a rehearsal dinner.
Constantly being told by my uncle's guests that no one gets to see the private dining room. We've been going here for 20 years and we've never seen the private dining room.
And it was like my first time meeting your uncles.
No, that couldn't have been.
They came down to plan the wedding. And that was it.
Right.
And then it was like, hi, welcome to the family.
True. Yeah.
I was like, yes, I'm worth it.
It was good times.
It was great times.
Mm-hmm. Even running to the restaurant because our driver was severely behind schedule.
Facts.
All good.
MaSean, what advice would you give to people who want to be in a relationship as long as we have been in one?
To listen and certainly to communicate. I know that sounds very trite. Everybody always says communication is key, but it really is. It's the only answer. Also compromise, right?
Yeah, I think part of what is up with communication is the way our brains work is we think we get something figured out. So if we're kicking it together for a really long time, I can really feel like I know who you are and what you're about, but you're slowly changing and growing, and your needs and what you value and want is going to shift over time. And so if I don't update my snapshot of who you are, it's really easy then to treat you like when we first got together. But what you wanted and needed 11 years ago, it's not what you want and need today in 2019.
True. I'm a slowly growing angry flower.
You really are. I'm fertilizing all over you to get you to grow.
Yeah. And also, thankfully, you update your own snapshot for me of how you change.
Constantly, without pause.
You know, it needs to be done because sometimes people like me aren't paying attention.
I'm always like, are you growing? Is this working? You're like the hardest. I'm going to get into this. You're like the hardest sick person to live with.
Oh, that's probably true.
Because I'll be like, oh, do you need anything? And you're like,
yes.
I'm like,
slowly dying.
Do you need a respirator? What the fuck is that?
I'm definitely like a sick animal. I just want to crawl into the corner and be left alone, and I'm either going to make it or I'm going to die.
Yeah. My favorite time of you being sick, we had
He has
just
a favorite?
Yeah, we had just started.
Okay.
Don't bring Mariah into this. She's gonna be on my side all the time. I'm the one who signed her check. Trust. So we had just started working out when I finished grad school back in like 2012.
Yeah.
And the night before we went to the gym, because we'd go like early ass in the morning, you got a taco from Taco Bell.
Hold on. In my defense, because we don't normally eat Taco Bell, they had just released the Dorito shell tacos.
It's like Doritos Loco.
And it needed to be tested. Yeah.
So I'm in the gym at like 4:30 in the AMs, hitting this lift hard, making it work. And you disappear. And then you come back like 10 minutes later. And I'm all like, are you okay? Because you look completely flushed and just like, you look like 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound sack. And you were like, oh, I just went outside and vomited. And I was like, we need to leave immediately. You were like going to try to continue to work out. And you had food poisoning. I had to like convince you to like call into work that day.
It was the longest food poisoning I've ever had. I've had it 2 or 3 times in life, but that one lasted for like a little over 48 hours. I was so sick. Yeah. Slowly dying.
And the best part was you would not tell me. You're exactly the kind of person that, like, if you were choking in a restaurant, instead of asking for help, you'd be the one who runs to the bathroom
and dies alone.
And dies trying to Heimlich yourself.
On the sink.
Yeah.
It's true. And for that food poisoning, the rest of the day, I just laid on the floor in our room sweating and then crawling to the bathroom and vomiting. Yeah. Shirtless.
Like, and do you need anything?
At one point, like 9 hours in, you came in to check on me, and I'd thrown up consistently for 9 hours straight. And I was laying on the floor, drenched in sweat, with no shirt. And you were like, your abs look good. Do you want me to take a picture?
That sounds like me. Yeah.
I wanted you to die.
I'm pretty sure you had me take a picture.
That is not true.
Okay. I guess we were rewriting history here.
I didn't.
Welcome to our new podcast, White Old Men.
I said no. Get out. If you took a picture, that's on you.
It's still in the old spank bank.
Yeah.
MaSean, we have the holidays coming up here.
Yeah, your favorite holiday.
Oh, yeah. Halloween is absolutely my favorite holiday.
Hocus Pocus Day. It's a controversial movie.
What makes it so controversial?
Like 50% of the population thinks it's the greatest, most fun movie ever, and the other 50% is like, no, that movie's trash. We don't know why adults keep watching it. It's never been good. Stop watching it.
I think, my understanding, I'm going to give you a brief retelling of the history of it.
I'm so excited.
Our podcast. It started out being like some like cheesy family movie.
For sure.
And then they like got going in it and they were like, oh, fuck this. We have like a good script. We have a good cast. I guess we're making like a real damn movie. So like, I see where some people would be like, what? And then Bette Midler comes on. You're like, oh, okay.
That's probably the best defense of it I've heard.
Yeah.
I'll accept it. I mean, I like it.
I like Billy.
I also recognize how terrible it is.
Yeah. I mean, it has children in it.
Yeah.
Done.
Mm-hmm. Not my favorite.
But like in the bigger sense, like Halloween is the kickoff of a shit ton of holidays that oftentimes have obligation to people. So like some people have to go to visit their in-laws for the holidays.
Yeah, let's not do that ever.
We don't do that.
We avoid it at all costs. I hope they don't listen.
I think they won't. They didn't even come to our wedding. You think I'm gonna listen to your podcast?
It was so far.
I know. They were like, "Here's $100." Okay.
Yeah, that happened.
Thank you.
Hey, you know. No big whoop.
I do like when you go to Louisiana and I'm all like, have fun.
It does not happen often, so that's okay. I certainly don't expect you to go. I don't want to go.
But you're like, who wants to?
Yeah.
It's muggy.
And
the only thing you can watch is Fox News.
It is very hot.
Yeah.
It's so sweltery.
Yeah.
All those marigua.
The last time we went, we like worked out code for when I would be overwhelmed by your family system.
Would you pull your hair out? What was the code?
You remember, we'd be like, let's go work out. And we'd like go for a run. And on that run, I'd be like, can you believe it?
Yeah, there's a lot of those moments.
Yeah.
They're
The amount of texting I do to you from across the room.
combination folks.
Yeah.
They're like a really surprising mix of super kind and fun and generous, and also backwoods, right wing, conservative.
Nah.
It's a real mess.
My mom lets you know up front. She just does not like you because you're gay.
Yeah, she's gross.
I wouldn't have talked to her since we got engaged.
I could hear the disappointment in her voice the first time she realized that we eat our burger and fries the same way. She's like, "Oh, he eats the fries first too."
Just like her or like me?
Like her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was not pleased with it. And I'm like, I don't give a shit how you eat fries.
They all say we marry our family systems. So
I'm just like
PK Griggs.
Yeah. I couldn't even say it.
You better get ready for hating yourself then.
No. I mean, I'm already there, but I'm not like her. I won't be like her. We're good.
What advice would you give to people who feel like they have to go home for the holidays or perform like the Martha Stewart holiday for their family systems?
My only advice is you don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, take control of your life. You're an adult. If you don't want to visit them, if they make you less happy, then don't. There's no rule that says you have to visit them.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes people have money attached, right? Which I get. If it's like big money coming down the pike.
I guess, but I have big money attached, and I spent my entire life setting up a system in which I wouldn't need it.
Yeah, but you also got me in that deal, so I think that's a win-win.
I set up that system long before you came around.
I think you knew. Cosmically,
Nope.
psychically.
You had nothing to do with it. Stop taking credit.
I will take
Nope.
credit all the times. No, but some people can't do that, which I get.
I guess.
I
do not accept it.
I work with them in therapy, so trust me. There are times where people cannot have safety or security. They have to stay attached to a crummy system, which sucks. You can go your own way. You also are someone who...
Fleetwood Mac said that.
Yeah. You are very Stevie Nicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have like a wonderful Thanksgiving. We usually do like a champagne tasting at the house.
True.
And then invite folks who might not have a place to go or have to like work retail.
Yeah, and cook something fun and unusual.
Oh, I loved it when we did French food.
Yeah. That pops up every now and then. But yeah, we stuffed a bird, made our own pate. It was good.
We are some bougie gays. Bougie on a budget, trust.
La joie de vie.
Hey everyone, you are listening to Me and My Gorgeous Husband. I am Adam Marr, a sex-positive, straight-friendly therapist, and I'm here with my husband.
MaSean. I'm the heckle to your Jekyll,
Oh
also known as the nice one.
Yes.
Is that true?
You are the nice one.
That's not true.
And the person cackling to my right here is someone I know very well, Dr. Karen Rayne.
Hey there, Adam.
Hi, Dr. Karen. I can just call you Karen, correct? Because we are friends.
Yeah, don't ever call me Dr. Karen. Dr. Rayne,
Yeah.
I'm okay with.
Yes.
Or Karen.
Not Dr. Karen.
Dr.
No, I was raised by ignorant wolves.
Wow.
Karen, you are like a big get. People in like your world like know who you are, and yet a lot of folks might not know you because you're very much a humble, like stay at home, jam, read, write person.
Adam's recently found out that I like to make jam.
Yeah.
And it seems to have just stuck.
It broke my brain.
It comes up a lot.
Because it is delicious. Like, you're going to put Smuckers out of business. If writing about sexuality doesn't work out.
Let's be clear. The jam that you had,
Yeah.
I picked those raspberries from a wild growing raspberry bush
Jesus.
in rural Germany. And then jammed them within hours.
Oh my
This is
goodness.
some Laura Ingalls
Yeah.
craziness. Yeah.
Was she one of the Von Traps?
No. She was from Little House on the Prairie. You know, it's all the same.
I'm so close. Well, Karen, you founded a nonprofit here in Austin called UnHushed. Can you tell folks a little bit about UnHushed and your mission?
Yeah, so our mission is to break the silence and stigma surrounding sexuality. And we go about that primarily through sexuality education with a lifespan perspective. So we've started with some curricula, but we're expanding beyond that in some really fun and interesting ways now.
Yeah, so you do like middle school, high school, college, young adult.
Yeah, so our curricula at UnHushed includes a full comprehensive middle school curriculum that's 38 hours long if you run it from start to end. And we have a full high school curriculum that's 36 hours long. And then we're currently working on our birth through 5-year-old curricula.
Whoa, I love it.
And our kindergarten through 5th grade curricula.
Yes. And your stuff is inclusive and pleasure-focused sex ed.
Yeah, it's definitely inclusive. We talk a lot about that. We talk a little bit less about it being pleasure-focused, although it is, but that's not something that we do a lot of conversations about. So I'm kind of excited to talk with you about that.
I was going to say, because there's a part of me that goes, I bet some parents might have a challenge with that.
Yeah, people balk at the idea of talking about pleasure with anybody, but especially with the under 18 set. But it is an element of everything that we're doing because we're talking about knowledge about your body as an inherent human right. And one of the parts about our bodies is that they feel good when they're touched in certain ways, and they feel bad if they're touched in certain ways. And we need to talk about all of those elements.
Is that how you directly confront pushback, or do you have like a plan or a method, or you just explain that straight out?
We haven't had a lot of pushback because we don't explicitly advertise as being pleasure focused because we're not particularly interested in addressing that pushback directly. So when asked if we're pleasure focused, it's usually by someone who's into it
That makes sense.
Already understands what that means and understands the context. We are starting to get more pushback as more people know us and more people are using and knowing our curriculum. But usually it's about age appropriateness and other issues that we talk about pretty frequently and obsessively.
Yeah. Can we talk for a moment about some of the curriculum that you've created? Because mine was essentially like what you kind of think of for sex ed, which was a gym teacher showing me slides of STIs. MaSean is from Louisiana, so I assume his was a crawdad.
Yep, definitely.
Teaching him the same thing.
Just put a crawfish in a condom and slap people with it. Yeah. It's a lot of that, yeah.
So what might sex education look like for someone who's younger?
Yeah, let's start with one of my favorite activities in our high school curriculum is actually on STIs.
Yeah.
Because so many of the STI activities out there are just basically lectures, which is pretty boring, or showing really close-up pictures of genitals that have all kinds of problems going on with them.
And usually the worst case scenario.
Absolutely the worst case scenario.
Makes for a better picture.
We're talking terrifying.
Yeah.
Deep down terrifying. And so we don't do that. So our high school STI activity actually just passes out this one-pager. And we've created a one-page information sheet on STIs, which I don't know anybody else who has. It took me about a month of working closely with our designer to make it readable, informative, all of these things. So it's very intensely designed, but very informative for if you're just looking for information. So we pass that out, which basically does the same thing as the lecture. And now we have another 69 minutes to go into detail on something else. So what we do is we have...
Can I pause for a moment?
Yeah.
You totally made MaSean laugh at 69 minutes.
I know.
I'm married to a child.
No comments.
I didn't choose that number because of it, but as soon as I realized it was coming up in my patter there, I was all in.
Oh my
Spoke
gosh.
to me.
Yeah.
We're good.
So then we have the kids, we break them up into groups, and we assign each group a person. And this person has been diagnosed with an STI. And they have to write the story, they write that person's story. So how did they contract it? How did they decide to get tested? Why did they decide to get tested? How did the testing go? Now that they've been tested, what is their next steps? And so they write this whole story out using the information handout to base all of their information on the scientific realities of whatever STI they've been assigned. And then they introduce their people, their little story to the group, and then they pass their person on to another group. And then that group has to do some role plays, whether one of the people is pretending to be the person with the STI, one of the people is pretending to be a nurse, and so one of the people is pretending then to be their parent, one of their people is pretending to be a future partner. And so they role play, like, what does a dialogue look like if you have been diagnosed with gonorrhea at 17, and what does that mean about a partner conversation in 10 years? So it's this really like applicable kind of real life scenario rather than here's a bunch of scary things.
Yeah, as someone who helps people explore their sexual identities in therapy, I have a lot of folks who come in and they are mortified of STIs. Mm-hmm. And so, I think we've talked a lot about this offline, like this idea of all the risk we take as humans. Like, to get here today to film this podcast, I got in a vehicle and drove it at 40 miles an hour. That's a risk. Mm-hmm. So helping people understand that, like, education, understanding these things will help you then better navigate your own sexual health and recognizing all the risks that we take every day.
Yeah, it's also a really brilliant idea to have people take on the different personas in role play, which I never would have thought of. I'm glad you're so much smarter than me.
Oh, Karen is like that's extremely smart. Karen's like the person I go to.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
When I'm like, should I do this? I should ask Karen.
Yeah.
And my favorite Karen is when we are at some conference or something and someone is talking to her and I can see in her eyes, she's like, oh, I'm going to help this person discover their own ignorance right now. And she'll let them talk and talk and talk and talk. And then her teacher training comes in and she asks like one Socratic question. And their whole thing collapses on itself. Yikes.
I mean, you just gotta show people the doors.
Yeah.
And then they walk through all on their own.
I love it. You're teaching at UT.
I am.
Right now, currently.
Yeah, I am back in the classroom at UT. I haven't taught at the college level in, 5 years maybe. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of fun to be back in the classroom. I'm not accustomed to class sizes of over 100, however, which is what I have now. So that's a new experience for me. I've done lots of groups with over 100, but not a classroom. I've done lots of workshops and presentations and things like that for, thousands. But this like ongoing, how do I make a classroom experience interesting for 115 kids they're not kids, but
young people.
Younger people. And this ongoing, twice a week way for 15 weeks so that no one wants to hear me talk that much. I don't want to hear me talk that much. So how do I make that interactive and engaging in the way that I do all of my curricula for the younger groups, right? But I'm assuming that those groups are like maybe 20 to 30 kids. It's a different ballgame when you have...
That's what I was wondering. When you have a curriculum that spans age groups, do you just change the vocabulary, or are there other methods to make it apply to different age groups?
Yeah, it's very different. So there's some of the vocabulary changes, although not a lot, actually. The vocabulary of the content stays pretty similar, right? I might use 4 or 5 syllable words more frequently in my college classrooms than I do in middle school classrooms, but the content curriculum or words all are the same. Yeah. But the way that you present them is different. So that activity that I was mentioning earlier about the high school kids writing these stories, that's not one that I would use in middle school classrooms, because middle school kids, they're not having first-person experiences with STIs in the same kind of way. So they don't need the first-person kind of experience in the classroom thinking about and talking about them.
Okay.
For them, it's more of a, theoretical, at the end of the day, what I want them walking out of the classroom with at the middle school level is can't know you have an STI unless you get tested. That's their takeaway. At the high school level, it's I have the skill set to talk about STIs with people in a variety of settings.
Yeah. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
What inspired you to go into this field? Because you are a smart cookie. You could be jamming it up, making your own jam business right now, but you chose to make
Revisited jam.
yes.
We're gonna bring that back around over and over again.
I don't think I'm ever gonna get off jam. But you could be doing a lot of things in the world.
Do you know what's happening at my house right now?
What is happening at your house? I can only imagine.
It better be jam related.
It is not jam related. However, it falls into like this general theme. I feel like,
Like Little Women.
yeah.
I want to be Joe.
Oh,
She was the one that rode the motorcycle in Little Women, right?
yeah, and died early. I think
Yeah.
from a motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm mixing Little Women and Facts of Life.
Oh, yeah.
You're
That's
welcome. I thought you were catch that, but you did not.
And also
What is going on at your
the
house,
Von
Karen?
Traps and
Yeah.
Little House on the Prairie. You're just like mixing it all up.
That's
in
kind
here.
of my shtick.
Yeah.
I like to mix things up.
So
genre bending, if you will.
my wife and 2-year-old right now,
V.
I laid out patterns for them for dresses and pinned them to dinosaur fabric before I left home. And so they are cutting out pattern pieces for me to sew dresses for the two of them and the baby's doll to all be matching dinosaur fabric.
So, does McCall or Simplicity make a pattern for her dinosaur clothes?
Well, no, they're not going to be shaped like, they're not like dinosaur costumes.
Right. No, they're
Right.
just print.
Yeah.
When my 18-year-old was 4, however, she did want to be a dinosaur for Halloween, and I did design my own dinosaur costume for her.
Respect.
Yeah.
It was blue sequined.
That's why many of them died out.
Disco dinosaurs.
They're now mermaid pillows. So, Karen, you could do a lot of things.
I can, yeah.
What made you choose like this path?
Well, the question of what do you want to do for a hobby and what do you want to do to actually like make a living is a really important one that I feel like not enough people really assess deeply in themselves. You know, because I don't want to make things to sell. I tried for a hot minute and I was miserable.
Yeah. Because dealing with the public in that sense sounds terrible.
It is terrible.
Because people have terrible taste.
They do.
Look who MaSean picked as a husband. Obviously.
I
Poor
drink a
taste.
lot.
Yes.
You know, I always knew that I wanted to work with teenagers. That was just always my deal. As a teenager, I felt like we were neglected as a group, socially, culturally, and things were required of us that didn't feel like were appropriate developmentally. You know, and this came out as a teenager being like, I shouldn't have to ask to go to the bathroom. Who are you? You know, blah, blah, blah.
Wait, you were rebellious as a teenager?
Only in the way that I, not in all the ways that other people are rebellious.
Yeah, you're rebellious and like, this goes against human rights.
This is like systemically unacceptable.
Yeah, you were like woke.
And, you know, the mid-90s, yeah. So, you know, there was a wreck on Mopac on my way to school one day, my senior year of high school, so I was 5 minutes late, but they did like a lockdown thing. So because I was 5 minutes late, they wouldn't let me into my AP chemistry class. They made me go to the, you know, cafeteria where they were like, okay, now you have to do these worksheets for the standardized test. And I was like, my friend, I have passed this test. I passed this test 2 years ago. I am not going to be filling out these worksheets. I have more important things to do in AP chemistry.
I told MaSean this morning that like you and him are more similar than I think he realizes, and this is exactly underlining that.
I railed against the machine.
They were like, because you're unwilling to do these, you have to go to the assistant principal's office. And I was like,
Ooh,
okay.
a walkie-talkie and a bad perm.
So
Look out.
I went to my assistant principal's office, and he was like, what's the problem? And I was like, well, I was 5 minutes late, and I want to go into class anyway because I want to learn AP chemistry. And he was like, well, you can't because you're late. And I was like, it's only 5 minutes. And he goes, well, but a cop can still pull you over for going 5 miles over the speed limit. And I said, sure, but they don't. And that riled him. And he said, well, I'm going to call your mom. And I was like, great. Here's her
Please do.
number.
Yeah.
And he was like, please step out into the hallway. Wait for me out there. I was like, all right. So I stepped out into the hallway and, you know, pulled out my AP chemistry work and sat down and did my AP chemistry until the bell rang. And I was like, well, I'm going to my next class now. So I think that was, his way of like not dealing with me.
Yeah.
So that was my rebellion, was that level of thing. But teenagers, they're great. They're so much fun.
I think
Are
so.
they?
Yeah,
They
I
are
think
terrifying.
amazing.
Oh. No,
I don't want to be anywhere near teenagers. They're scary.
I worked at a rehab for teenage boys for almost 7 years, and teenagers do not let shit slide. And it is a radically authentic way to live because they will haunt you with your own words.
Exactly. I don't need any of that. I live in fear of anyone under the age of 18.
I love them.
Yeah, me too.
And I love middle schoolers, which is even harder.
Yeah, because they stink.
That's true.
Oftentimes you're like, oh, we have not had this talk yet
Quality
about
assessment.
deodorant or shampoo.
So I thought I'll go into education, right?
Yeah.
It's easiest access to teenagers in our culture, and went through 3 years of teacher training and was really excited about it. And then I got into the school system and realized that the way it was structured here in Texas was such that I couldn't implement the best practices approaches to education that I've been learning about for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So I had this like idealistic perspective of like, oh, I know how people learn. I know how to run a really good classroom, make it really exciting and invigorating, and I wasn't allowed to do it. And so I was like, well, that's stupid. I'll go back to grad school. So I went back to grad school in educational psychology. Because that was the program that hired me, that accepted me directly into a PhD program because I didn't have a master's degree yet. And I was like, master's degrees, no thank you. I want the PhD.
Yeah. I'm going to be Dr. Rayne.
If I'm going to go
Don't call it Dr. Karen.
to
'cause
grad
then
school.
I will drop a jam on you.
And hot jam burns.
Is that the name of your like family good time band? Hot Jam Burns. So you went back to get your PhD.
I did, and I was going to do research. That was my plan. And then the people in my research program told me that if I had a family, I couldn't do that. Wow. And I already had a kid. I was pregnant. I had a baby, or I guess toddler, and then I was very pregnant. And my advisor said, you cannot be a tenure track professor and have a family. You might as well just drop out now.
Rebellious you.
Yeah.
No, it took me out. Pregnancy hormones, not to be reckoned with. I just burst into tears. I went to my department person who was the one who could unenroll me from school, directly just sobbing, right? Hugely pregnant, sobbing. And she was like, why? What has happened? And I told her, and she said, no, absolutely not. You are not dropping out. I was a single parent in grad school. You were staying in school. You were coming to me for your advising for the rest of your duration here. You are graduating.
And then she played Shaka Khan, I'm Every Woman.
Yes.
So I graduated, not quite sure knowing what I wanted to do, right, up until my last semester. And so I was still like, I guess a PhD in educational psychology can't hurt me. Right? It's in an area that I'm interested in. It's probably what my career will be in. I just don't know how I'm going to use it. And that semester, one of my friends who had a daughter who was a freshman in high school, the daughter had a pregnancy scare. And I mean, the sweetest, most adorable pregnancy scare that you have ever heard of. So she and her partner had been dating for, some months, 5 or 6 months. They had known each other since they were very small. Families all knew each other. The rules were that they couldn't be behind closed doors. They had to be within eyesight at all times. And
Same.
You had that rule too?
Oh, yeah.
I had no rules because my parents saw me as asexual because I was like super Christian.
Oh.
I was the good one. My brother was the troublemaker.
well,
The tables have turned.
this young person did not take the path that you took.
Yeah.
And she and her partner had sex in the backyard within full sight of the house,
Yeah.
just like on the lawn.
Kudos.
It was very short because
Yeah.
it often is the first time.
It doesn't take a lot.
And
She'll be telling our secrets.
then she just, as teenage girls are wont to do, freaked out and was like, oh my God, I know I'm pregnant. I've got to be pregnant. So she came to her mother and she said, I think I'm pregnant. Her mother was like, wow, okay. Wasn't expecting that. Tell me more. You know, did you use a condom? And she was like, yes, I used a condom. And her mother said, well, after you had sex, where was the condom? And she was like, oh my God, it's still inside me. And like started like pulling her clothes off, like trying to like claw a condom out. Anyway, it was not still inside her. Spoiler alert, it was in the yard.
It was like on a garden gnome.
And so she had told her boyfriend that she'd had this pregnancy scare. So her boyfriend was trying to figure out how to tell his mom. And so they were shopping at PetSmart, and just like in the middle of the aisle, he goes, Mom, I think my girlfriend is pregnant. And I'm the one who inseminated her.
Oh, yeah, like cattle.
Large farm animal.
So, spoiler alert, she was not pregnant.
Yeah.
And her
Yikes.
mother came to me and was just like talking with me. It was like, I just wish there was a place where she could go for comprehensive sex education. The school does nothing. Nothing. They mention nothing. She was like, I can take her to Planned Parenthood and get some really good information on contraceptives and STI prevention, but I want something that's this really comprehensive approach. And I was like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah, so you put down your jamming accoutrement.
I was like, yeah, I have no problems doing that.
Yeah.
Of course, my PhD almost in educational psychology qualifies me to talk about human sexuality. No. But I sure thought it did.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. And so I worked with my friend and her husband about how to talk about sex more openly in their home. And I talked with their daughter one-on-one over a series of weeks about sexuality, sexual health, relationship-related topics. And it was the most fun I'd ever had.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I want to do this.
Yeah. So what would you say is like some of the worst and best advice that you have heard about talking about sex with young folks, or just talking about sex with a partner even?
I don't even know. I haven't ever thought about it in those terms.
I get some like really doozies. So I do a lot of work with men who love men. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of them come in saying, oh, anal sex is just supposed to hurt. That's just part of the deal.
Oh,
and I'm
like just wrong information.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, no, honey.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
I heard from one of my students that ejaculate reduces the chances of breast cancer. Swallowing ejaculate.
You're like, whose boyfriend taught you that?
I'm like, thank God, I'll never have to worry about breast cancer.
Her boyfriend taught her that.
Yeah.
And when I pulled out like the medical research that disproved this theory that she brought in, she cried.
Yeah, she'd been had, for sure.
She had a history of breast cancer in her family.
Oh.
And she was like dedicated to this cause of making sure she never had breast cancer because it had killed her grandmother. Her mother had gone through treatment several times. It was probably going to kill her mother. Like, she'd watched this trajectory.
She thought she had found like
An answer.
out, and
Yeah.
she had really just found
An asshole.
a douchebag. Yeah.
Yeah.
Master manipulator.
Yeah. But the issue was that there had been a publication about it. CNN had actually published an article saying that swallowing ejaculate reduced the chance of breast cancer.
That gets me riled up.
I got so angry.
So I often see like these flashy headlines about research that's out, and I'm like, one, you look at the study and it's garbage.
Totally.
And I'm like, okay, you just wanted something that would like get people's attention, but this really isn't anything.
Right. So I actually talked with, or through my stepmother who had breast cancer at the time, she talked with her doctor about it, who is like one of the top global oncologists. And she got so angry, she called first the author of the CNN article, reamed him out, called his supervisor, reamed the supervisor out. They were both like, it was published, what can we do? So she called the researcher. Like, she dug deep in expressing her extreme discontent.
She had Anderson Cooper on the phone.
She was...
Yeah, that's insane. It is crazy how you can just publish anything, no matter how ridiculous it sounds. I would like to think that the people, the editors, of these articles are at least moderately intelligent adults and could read this and be like, we can't post that.
Right.
But I
If it
guess
doesn't
not.
seem true,
Yeah.
it's probably not true.
Here's the problem with news is it is its own commodity at this point. And so
Yeah.
people are like, oh, this will sell. This will get bought. As you can tell, my undergrad is in communication studies. She truly is doing the most. I'm going to back up and talk about anal sex not hurting. Right? So if someone says it's supposed to hurt, like one, there's a big difference between something feeling new, uncomfortable, right? Like this is just a different sensation and something feeling painful. If it's painful, stop, slow down, breathe. If you don't have a partner or partners who are willing to do that with you, you need to get yourself some new partners.
This is something I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was on Fox News.
I was not prepared for
I'm
that.
going to go dig that clip up. Mariah, can you pull up that clip of Karen yelling at someone on Fox News?
So I was filmed without my consent at a youth.
I remember this.
At a youth thing. I was talking with 600 youth, answering their anonymous questions. One of the questions was, well, first of all, there were a lot of questions that had someone chosen a clip to put up on Fox News. I was shocked that this is the one that they picked.
Yeah. And this is from like a square state, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the ones you don't even name anymore. You're just like, Box America.
I mean, it was Iowa.
Oh, there you go.
We can name it.
Oh, it's a state. Have they done anything since Hoosiers?
So
Yeah.
they
filmed her without consent.
Someone filmed me in the audience, and the clip that got put up on Fox News, and it was just the local Fox News. It wasn't national, thank goodness. But it felt so innocuous.
Yeah.
The question, which was clearly from the audience, was, does anal sex hurt? And my answer was, sometimes. And then I went on, but they ended the clip after the sometimes, which I feel like was true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I don't know how you can argue with that as like an appropriate I'm like, I don't even know what to say if you're upset when a youth asks, does anal sex hurt? And you answer, sometimes. I don't see the problem.
That's what they were going after?
Yeah.
They
And
wanted you to say,
they never told me what they wanted me to say, but based on that clip, the state legislature was considering making it illegal for anyone under the age of 18 to ask an R-rated question.
okay,
Yeah.
R-rated questions.
I like that. That would be right next to some law about like corn husking. No R-rated questions, no silky corns. Yeah. Oh, Karen, we have like a new law here. We were talking about this the other day. There's a new law about nudes in Texas. Yeah, what's your take on it? I mean, I'm about consent.
Okay, so I don't have the exact wording, but generally my recollection is that it's illegal to send unsolicited nudes.
Yes,
Correct.
it's Class C misdemeanor with a $500 maximum fine.
Okay. So
Or you can. It also can be, what's the turgid?
Turgid.
Turgid.
Jesus.
She just can't help you, girl. She ain't real. Or if you were like bulging in your underwear and you said that.
Yeah, so it doesn't just apply to nudes. It's anything suggestive of the, I guess, genital area.
interesting.
Very weird.
So like pointy nipples, does that count?
No, because it specifically is written towards people with penises, but of course the law says men.
Okay.
Right,
Great.
so if you're wearing a pair of shorts and things seem
If you're John Hamm
swollen,
situation.
yeah, then that automatically counts.
Okay.
Oh, John Hamm. Can we just take a moment and think about that? If you are attracted to men,
Oh, ham.
let's just get on the ham for a minute. Karen, you think about jam. I'm so stupid.
Yeah,
I
sometimes.
literally can't believe you came onto this podcast because
How else are we going to spend our Saturday mornings?
I
If
love
not
it.
this, then what?
you'd be like macawing out with your family.
Pattern queen.
So, do you have any thoughts about this idea of a law that is, I think, in good faith to like have people have consent at the same time? Some of the complications of consent.
I think it's well intentioned, but I don't have any idea about the implementation.
Yeah.
And I understand, I agree with the intention even.
Yeah.
And I wonder to what degree we should be working towards shifting culture as opposed to legislating. And so that's really where my biggest question is.
Yeah, and I think you work from a much larger perspective. You're like, I'm going to make meaningful impact by creating curriculum that changes, shapes minds.
I mean, yeah, like ultimately that's what's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
If we look at the differences in cultures where, sexual assault is more common and STIs are more common, unplanned pregnancies and all these other problems, they're cultures that that are inherently different than the places where these things are not as problematic or as frequent. And so the answer is not to legislate. The answer is clearly, if you look at a global dialogue, is to shift the culture.
Yeah.
True.
So you teach sex ed, you create curriculum on a global level.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about that experience. What is it like to go to cultures that might be very different than like the old US of A and help people like figure out how to teach sex ed?
It is. The first time that I went to a culture that was really different, it was Zimbabwe. And I was surprised at how similar the concerns were.
Yeah.
So yes, there are differences, right? Obviously there are differences, but the underlying framework of what is good education is not different. The biology is not different. The psychology of human connection, not so different. So there are things that need to be done very much in partnership when I'm in places that have really different cultures than my own, like, shall we say, New York City?
Yeah.
Very different from Texas.
It's less big hair.
So there are differences that we need to take into account and make the sex education applicable, but we need to make it applicable at a micro level because it has to actually be applicable to the youth who are sitting in the classroom itself. What I do, even, out of our offices is going to be different than what, two different high schools in Austin need. Mm-hmm. And that's the perspective that I come from, which is that my goal is to help facilitators make sure that their content and approach is applicable on the micro level to their classroom. Mm-hmm. And when I'm looking at it in that way, the differences between cultures matters less because I'm giving facilitators tools to modify and apply to individuals.
Yeah. So you're like teaching people how to kind of like look across the landscape, gather data, and then make it applicable to the people that they work with.
Ideally, like each individual sitting in front of them, as opposed to this larger context. This summer, I was working with UNESCO in the Eastern and Southern Africa region. And there's a lot of cultural differences among that broad swath. Mm-hmm. So at a training that we did, which was in Zanzibar, which was amazing in and of itself as a whole side note. I've gone some really cool places from sex ed. Like, who knew that you could do that? But it does happen every now and then.
I think you're a unique person to do that because you're also incredibly smart and you don't like systems. So you make your own system and you're like, I want to travel.
Yeah, and sometimes that's to amazing places like Zanzibar or Guam, and then sometimes that's the places that are less amazing like Iowa.
Like for every Iowa.
Have you had corn jam, MaSean? It is really the pits.
I made watermelon jelly recently for the first time, which is also something that's unexpected.
That's also my stage name at the Yellow Rose.
Oh, God.
So in the room there was such dramatic cultural differences among the people who were there representing their countries, right? Because there's 13 countries, and it goes from these very conservative but places like Lesotho, but has this very high HIV rate. And so they're looking at, like, they need to save the lives of the people who are living there. And so they're like, yes, we have bought into conversations about condoms wholesale, but anything about sexual orientation and gender identity off the table, including a conversation about people who are intersex.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's a biological reality there, my friend, that you can physiologically just see, and there's still no.
Yeah.
And then there's places like South Africa, which interestingly like entirely encompasses Lesotho, that is like, oh yeah, like same-sex marriage is legal in South Africa, and they, you
I
know,
had no idea.
so these very different cultures living very close quarters with each other and with themselves, and helping them figure out how, as their own community, to navigate that space without me coming in and telling them what to do, but rather providing a platform for conversation.
Yeah. UnHushed began in 2009, or?
No, UnHushed is only a year and a half old, almost 2 years old.
Is a baby.
I thought I read that on the website.
Yeah, no, I've been doing sex ed since 2007,
Oh, okay.
but UnHushed is brand new.
Okay. I was going to ask, but not a lot of time has passed, if you ever hear back from people who were a part of your workshop and they give you like their experience and how it changed their outlook on things.
Yeah, actually, the person who was my first sex ed student, who I have, that one person, like way early on, who had that pregnancy scare, I have the most amazing quote from her. I'm going to see if I can find it real
I
quick.
love it.
Can I take a
Yeah,
second
yeah.
and look for that?
And I will say this. I know a lot of people who have taken your courses in college when you were teaching at ACC who are still like Karen Rayne fans. They are big old fangirls.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been doing sex ed long enough to have feedback from me personally, right?
Right.
We're still just kind of starting to get it back from UnHushed specifically.
But I've also been to enough conferences where you are represented and people are like into you.
Yeah.
It's a little funny having fangirls. Like, it is
Yeah.
its own kind of experience.
I was a fangirl of you, and then I like
I
tricked
know,
you
I
into
had-
friendship.
I had to tell you to cut it out.
Yeah. You were like, we are friends now. And I was like, oh my God. We've crossed the threshold.
It's easy to imagine
We're not friends until we make jam.
how big of an impact you can make on someone's life when you sort of coach them in these sort of things that they don't hear from other people. Yeah, I think about all the ways I would have made better decisions had I had better education, right?
Including who we chose to partner with.
Yeah, so let me read you this quote. So she sent this to me 10 years after I worked with her, almost like to the month. So she was 14 when I worked with her. She was 24 when she wrote this. Karen, early in my teenage life, and at the insistence of my incredible mother, instilled a sense of empowerment that I had never heard before from the adults in my life. Although it took me a while to fully hear her advice, it stuck with me and eventually became the metronome that brought me back to treating myself with the respect and reverence that I deserve.
Wow.
I love it.
I know. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. That's like all the things you want to do.
It is basically all the, like, if I could just get this for everyone in the world, that's actually my personal, like, mission. You asked for the organizational mission early on. My personal mission is that everybody has access to this kind of support and information.
I love it. Karen, where can people find you?
UnHushed.org is probably the best. UnHushed.org. Or my own personal website, which is years out of date, but is KarenRayne.com.
I thought it was going to be like a Karen on MySpace. Well, beautiful. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is so
Thank
much fun.
you.
Yes, you're so much fun. Let's eat some of this tasty jam. Michelle, I think it's time for our relationship check-in.
Oh, gosh. Okay, let's do it.
You, just like at home, you were hesitant.
Oh!
I mean, part of the reason we're doing this podcast is to show people how it is not that scary and okay to like talk about how your relationship's doing.
I was not notified. This is terrifying.
Oh, you were like, I did not consent to this. Mariah, get me out of here, please.
Hit eject. I'm just going to fly through the roof.
So, Michelle, what would you say is the easiest thing to appreciate about me?
The easiest thing to appreciate, I truly appreciate that you check in daily to see what we're going to do for dinner when you get off of work, what we're going to do to hang out. It's like a constant text situation because it also clears up my mind for not having to create things. Like you can tell me what we're going to do for dinner or what I need to pick up for dinner or make. And then,
Yeah.
what to queue up on the TV.
I usually give you like options. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm thinking this. What do you think?
Yeah, it makes my life a lot easier. So
Yes.
I like that. I'll
Thank
take
you.
it.
Thank you. I'll take it.
You
I think what
better.
I'm appreciating about you
Mhm.
is you really let me be me. And
I
that
do.
is not easy. Because your girl, talking about X-Men, she's like a storm sometimes.
It's not always easy for me.
Yeah. And I did not have that growing up. I had to perform a lot and pretend to be like uber into the God Squad.
Yeah.
And so having someone who just lets me like be me and works to appreciate it, even when it drives you up the damn wall, is actually very lovely.
Yeah. You know, that's me, Sonny VB.
Oh my gosh.
Super wonderful.
You are. If there was one thing that you could change about me, what might you change?
I think I would just want you to, just in general, and this is super shallow, but I would want you to just pick up after yourself more.
Yeah.
You create a constant hurricane of tiny messes,
I do.
like where you'll set down numerous pairs of shoes all over the place or
Yes.
leave glasses everywhere. It's like really the simplest of things, so it's not worth losing my mind over.
I agree with you, though.
Yeah.
And there's lots of piles.
Yeah.
I think for you, if I could find a way for you to
This is not going to be good.
really celebrate your own self more.
Oh, yeah, that sounds difficult.
Yeah. Because I love you to pieces, and I know that it is more of a challenge for you to feel that same way about yourself.
Should. Yeah, it really, that's hard for my brain.
Yeah.
It's not in my wheelhouse.
I know. So I will try to
One
pick
day.
up. I will try to pick up my shit more,
Yep.
and you will try to have radical self-love.
I'll just be popping bottles every night, all about me.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Show party.
I think it's more than what I call like white girl Instagram, right? Like sometimes people look at self-care as just getting your nails done or like, you know, getting your hair did, which is fine.
Yeah,
and,
sounds good.
And those things need to be done. And then there's like a deeper level of maintenance that isn't as easy. Like for me, going to the gym, like it's not just for my physical health, it's for my mental health because it helps my depression. But
That one
it's
is tough, though.
work for me to like haul my big ass to the gym and be like, all right, I'm going to be in here for like 45 minutes. Here we go.
Yeah, the same reason it's hard for me to appreciate myself more is what makes it easy for me to go to the gym because I'm fueled by constant self-hatred. So it's real easy to walk to the gym. I'm like,
Yeah.
you better get your ugly ass in there and do something.
You're like, this is hanging on by a thread.
Yep.
The only thing I have to help me
Yeah.
right now is hitting some weights.
I'm almost Medicare age.
Yeah.
I gotta fix problems.
Facts. That is true.
Yeah. So
You're the
yeah.
world's oldest twink.
Yeah. It's a tough place to be. So
Well, MaSean, I love you to pieces.
I love you too.
You should. I'm amazing. Mariah, thank you so much for being so wonderful and
Yes.
gorgeous and letting us do our thing.
You the best.
I know. She really is. She did not know what she was getting into when she signed up for this.
Probably not.
Yeah. So everyone listening, thank you so much for following along with us. You can find me on Instagram at moontower_counseling or online at moontowercounseling.com.
You will find me nowhere.
You're going to find MaSean in his hermit crab shell.
Yep. In our living room.
You'll find MaSean rewatching Peabody and Sherman for the 4th time
Fourth.
today.
Yeah. There you go. Back on track.
So, you know, be lovely to yourselves, be lovely to your partners, and wheeze out.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Me and My Gorgeous Husband.
I am gorgeous.
True.
Keep following along, and new episodes will be coming soon, all over your face. Yeah. Me and My Gorgeous Husband is produced by Mariah Gossett, Adam Marr of Moon Tower Counseling, and MaSean Fontenot.
That's me.
Yeah, that is you. Show me that beautiful butt. Tag team.
Back again.
We'll be around, I guess, next week or sometime.
Tune back in.
Who knows?